So there are a lot of my subscribers, YouTube subscribers, they want to get a job outside the India. So
Yeah.
what is the roadmap to get a job in Salesforce outside the India?
That's hard. It's hard. I get hit up almost on a weekly basis. One question, Tushar, are internships popular in India? Do they have internships where you actually have you can do a 3-month assignment while you're working on your degree? Do they offer that in India?
In India, the internships are less. They just hire second year or third year students. I just give you my college example. In our college, company recruit us in third year, or some of them recruit in second year, and then they directly give you a job. But you have to sign a bond of 2 year and 3 year. Shall we start the podcast?
Whenever you want.
I hope you are doing good in this pandemic. Hope you are safe.
All is going well here. I'm in Texas, and things are getting better. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm absolutely fine.
Good, good.
So, hey guys, I'm your host, and I just welcome our guest, Chris Hopper, sir, for today's podcast. And it's my pleasure to welcome our guest, Chris Hopper, sir. And just to tell you a little bit more about sir, is he's the most interesting, famous recruiter of Salesforce industry, and he create very exciting content on LinkedIn. I just give you the link in the description. Do check out his LinkedIn profile. And basically, he has a 20 years of CRM experience, and most of us know that Salesforce is the world's #1 CRM. So he also help people's get into the right industry, and also he also help the companies to find the right candidate for their organization. So I just over to Chris Hopper, sir, just to give their introduction.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tushar, for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your fan base and your audience on your YouTube channel. It's really a pleasure to be here. Again, my name is Chris Hopper. I'm in Houston, Texas, in the U.S. Currently been a Salesforce recruiter over the last 5 years. Prior to that, come from an IT background. So back in the late 90s, I graduated with an IS degree, and I programmed in C++ in college and Visual Basic, and then moved into doing a lot of Oracle programming. So I was using Siebel CRM, which is an on-prem solution, client server-based technology, for about 15 years, doing development and architecture work, being a technical PM, being a technical team lead. And then 5 years ago, decided to step out of the day-to-day consulting work and move into Salesforce and just focus really on recruiting and being able to write content that's meaningful to people that are either trying to break into the Salesforce ecosystem or those that are already here. I do a lot of book reviews around Salesforce from the Salesforce authors. I also try to provide meaningful content to those who want to get involved in the Salesforce ecosystem. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak today.
Oh, that's a great thing. You are doing a lot of stuffs. So
yeah, I mean, my background is just unique, right? So a lot of times recruiters don't come from the same background or pedigree or experience that I do. And I decided just to be able to leverage what I had learned in 15 years of consulting, working for Accenture and Hitachi, and just some of the big name consulting companies. And then I left Accenture in 2008 and went independent. So I had been an independent contractor for a number of years, going on projects and being a solution architect and a technical PM and a BA. So just kind of taking those 15 plus years of knowledge that I've gathered of being an integrator and being able to now kind of pivot my career into more of recruiting and talking to candidates and those that are just starting out, to be able to make sure that I can give them any guidance or advice that they need, whether it's resume reviews or conducting mock interviews, if they're looking to make a pivot in their career, about salaries, around the salary surveys. I think there's a lot of things that I try to focus on, that just be able to share that knowledge with others that are looking for help.
Yes, I checked out your LinkedIn posts. They are just amazing. If someone who is a beginner in the Salesforce, it helps a lot. It helps me a lot to explore the Salesforce thing. So my next question is most of the audience are basically are college grads. They are from first
Yeah.
year, second year, so they don't know about this Salesforce industry. They know about the software development industry, but don't know about
Right.
the Salesforce industry. So just
Yeah.
give a small explanatory form of thing about what is Salesforce, why is it so good.
Sure. Sure. So, Salesforce has been around for 20 plus years now, and it's traditionally known as CRM. But basically, what Salesforce does, it's a customer relationship management system where companies need to be able to essentially log accounts, activities, and opportunities, and contacts, and cases, and be able to report off of that information to understand the growth of the company, right? So sales pipelines, revenue, what activities need to be created, how many calls does an agent or does a sales rep need to make, how is that interaction with customers and prospects. That's kind of bare bones CRM. And then what Salesforce has been able to do over time is also create just kind of a platform, right? So once users purchase licenses for Salesforce for their CRM, there's Marketing Cloud, there's Field Service Lightning, there's, the middleware that they have offered, there's Tableau for reporting, there's all these different tools that Salesforce now offers, but they also offer a platform to be able to build your own custom applications. So let's say, a company needs a new app for their HR department, and they have an in-house Salesforce development team, then they can use the platform itself to be able to build their own applications against and have it hosted on the cloud by Salesforce. So there's a lot of ways to be able to optimize their applications and consolidate those to be able to use Salesforce, not just for a CRM or for their service cloud or for their the marketing cloud. They can also use it as just force.com as a platform to be able to host their own applications that they build out specific to their particular company.
So I think the we can customize the app on Salesforce, like name is App Exchange.
That's right. So the App Exchange is a marketplace. If you think about Apple's marketplace or Google's marketplace, Salesforce has its own marketplace called the App
Marketplace.
Exchange,
Yes, sir.
where you can, if what you can do is basically download different managed packages, different applications that other people have built, and they usually charge a license, a subscription license for that. A lot of them are free, right? There's some free products out there. Some are try before you buy, so you can try it for 30 or 60 days and just see if you like it, if it meets the specifications that you need for your company, and then also buy or purchase license agreement or licenses based on that product. So, Salesforce is just one piece of the core when it comes to applications. You have all these other technologies that sit on top of it that you can integrate to. Instead of building your own applications, there's a lot of times there's already application out there that's already been built to meet your specifications. And you can just bring that in and wrap it around your Salesforce.
Oh, that's a nice thing. That's the very interesting thing in Salesforce, that we can also that administrators can also make the apps in App Exchange without writing a single line of code.
That's right. Salesforce is big on clicks, not code. And so a lot of these managed packages or these App Exchange products, they allow, basically they're kind of bundled up, right? And so all you have to do is install them, right? And there's comes with different flows and process builders and Apex code and things like that. It's already packaged up, and you don't really have to configure any of that work because it's already done for you. You plug it in, and then you see how well it works for your specifications. And if you need to make changes to it, you go back to the original provider of that package, ask them if they make some changes. Some App Exchange providers are unlocked, so you can go in there and actually make some tweaks and configuration changes as you need to. Just depends on the situation and how well locked in the package is. But the thought is that 90% of the functionality that is offered on the App Exchange apps will meet your specifications. If not, you may have to make some modifications to account for it.
Okay, great explanation. So come back to the next question, that what is the scope of Salesforce in the upcoming years? Like it is saturated now, and yeah, it still have some demand of
Yeah,
Salesforce developers.
there's still a lot of demand. I check LinkedIn jobs probably almost every few weeks, and there's thousands of open positions right now for Salesforce developers. It seems like every customer that has Salesforce wants a Salesforce developer, or they want an admin developer combination, right? Someone that knows configuration, how to set up users, how to run reports, how to do some of the more simple admin things. But then also layer on top of that is someone that actually knows how to integrate, so write custom APIs, write some Apex triggers, do some things outside of just the normal configuration. But there's thousands of open opportunities right now at Salesforce. Now, the challenge is most of those companies want someone that has experience. And
Yeah.
we always run into the catch-22 is like, well, I don't have any experience. How can I get experience if everyone wants experience, right? And so you kind of run in this endless loop where it's a challenge for newcomers to be able to get their break. But I think over time, if you're able to start to showcase and do work on your own and build your own projects and your own applications, I think that's kind of a way that you can help get yourself in the front door to show that you have some experience building things on your own and being creative about it as well.
So in India, there is basically a developer market. So there are very less openings in admin. So most of the companies what do is they hired only one person, which is doing the
Mhm.
all tasks, admin task
Mhm.
also and developer task also. So that's what
Right.
our Indian market is. So in US market, that's also the thing, or there are more jobs in admin part also.
It's a combination of both. I mean, we have a lot of isolated admin jobs that are just admins, right? Because if you think about it, some customers don't need a developer, right? Because an admin can do all the clicks, not code. They can build flows out, they can run reports, they can build new dashboards, they can create new, kind of customized applications that don't need a lot of Apex running or custom API development. And so these small, medium businesses are content with just having one admin to be able to own the platform and be able to do all the things they need to do. And then if they need a developer, they may contract it out for a small project for a month or two. But for the most part, that's kind of why the demand for admins is still strong in the US, is because a lot of customers can get by with just kind of core Salesforce capabilities and have an admin be able to maintain a platform for them.
So my next question is basically in India, like most of the Salesforce openings are they just hire people who have that specific IT related degree.
Yeah.
So actually, those peoples who are not from IT related degree, they do a proper training of Salesforce, like 3 months or 6 month course, and then go to the company. So I just want to ask you that do we actually need any specific degree to get into this Salesforce domain?
I mean, it's becoming a little bit more neutral now, based on just some of the demand that's out there. So these coding boot camps and some of the Salesforce classes that are out there can help an individual get their first break in Salesforce. Um, I'm a big proponent of someone who has a tech degree, a computer science or an information systems degree, because I think there's a lot more foundational understanding about technology when you get those degrees around, databases, around programming, around systems, around designs, around algorithms. I think there's a lot more to offer an individual if they had a tech degree through a 4-year system, university system, versus someone that goes into a 3-month boot camp. I think you're just somewhat limited as far as what your knowledge can be versus going through that. But that being said, there's still so much demand for Salesforce right now. I think a lot of people, as long as they have some experience and have gotten some kind of technical training in Salesforce, a lot of customers are willing to give them a shot and improve themselves.
Okay, so my next question comes into that. You said that you worked for Accenture for 5 years
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
what's your experience at Accenture?
Accenture, it can be a grind, right? And so I was doing consulting. They offer so many opportunities though, right? If you're willing to, work long hours a lot of times and be on projects that there's a lot of stress or it can be some anxiety there, but you learn so much around working with people, working with difficult clients, working with different technologies. Before the pandemic, a lot of times, I was traveling a lot with Accenture, right? So they had me living in London for a year. I was living in New York City for 3 years. I was traveling all across the globe. Essentially, I was in India for some because they had an IDC, so I was managing a project and I had to go to India a few times. So just the wealth of knowledge and opportunity that I was given was great. I really couldn't ask for a better experience. Now, that being said, there's still a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of weekend work. There's a lot of late nights when there's a go live coming up. There's, working around the clock, early calls with the India in the morning or late calls with India in the evenings if you're in the US. And so that's kind of part of the package. But again, I mean, that kind of having that experience allowed me to be a little bit more professional in my career, as well as when I decided to go independent. I knew that I had that experience that I could leverage when I went to be an independent consultant as well. So I do recommend anyone who is willing to go down the consulting path to give that a try in their career. I think it's just a good stepping stone for your overall career success. Now, I know Accenture consulting is a little bit different than Accenture in the delivery centers, because I know that's really more structured around not so much client interaction as much, maybe more delivery or coding and programming and that type of work. But I just think that the products that an Accenture or an IBM have are so complex and so enterprise level that you just learn a lot of different things that are in motion with those projects.
So when it comes to my next question is based on the resume. So
Yeah.
what are the things we should add in our resume? What are the things that most importance in the resume and we should add it? So
Yeah.
how to stand out in the market by
Sure.
making a great resume?
That's a great question. And so many resumes that I see are so boilerplate and very vanilla, right? They just throw in a bunch of buzzwords and talk about writing Apex triggers or being able to do simple configuration, being an admin, And so what I look for in a resume is something that's very distinct, right? And talk to me specific about the technology that you did. What were the end results that were provided? What value did it provide, right? Those are the things that I look for in a resume. When they're very generic, I can't get a good feel for what your actual experience is. And it makes it difficult for me as a recruiter to understand what you've done. And when we'll go through, 50, 75 resumes in a few days. And when they all look the same to me, I'm going to end up not even bother calling that individual, right? Because I'm looking for something that's unique about what they've done, what technologies they've used, what the outcomes were. Those are things I want to see in a resume because it stands out versus the rest.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So there are a lot of my subscribers, YouTube subscribers, they want to get a job outside the India. So what is the roadmap to get a job in Salesforce outside the India?
That's hard. It's hard. I get hit up almost on a weekly basis, not just from India. Someone yesterday hit me up from Hong Kong wanting to come to the US. And so I get it. I get requests from all over the globe, right, about opportunities coming to the US. I don't really have a great answer. A couple of ideas though are getting your master's here, right, and getting on OPT, right? So you get your bachelor's in India, you come to the US if you can on a master's degree, graduate with a master's, get OPT for 2 years, right? And then hopefully get your H-1B status working in motion and be able to work for an organization that's willing to sponsor. Most of the big consulting companies, not all of them, some of them, the Wipros, the Cognizants, Accentures, a lot of them are sponsoring H1s, right? And so, I think going the education route is a good step, right? To be able to come to the US and be able to get your education here, your secondary education, or working for an organization, this is a little bit harder, working for an organization that has a presence in both India and the US, right? And that doesn't mean that, day one, they're going to transfer you all the way to the US, automatically. But I think if you can be with a company for a few years in India, kind of set the precedents, establish yourself, talk to them after kind of proving yourself that you're interested in working in the US office, see if they'd be willing to put in the sponsorship request to get you to the US to work. Right now, I know that's a long road ahead, but there is, it's not easy. I worked in London for a year, and I was with Accenture, and they had me. I proved myself. I think I was 2 or 3 years into my career at Accenture, and they had an opportunity to go to London. And they're willing to pay my work visa. They're willing to pay for my apartment. They're willing to pay for my travel to work in London. But I already had been known as a specialist, and they had a need there. And there was no one, I guess, in the greater London area that had that special skill set that I had. And they were willing to pay the difference for me to work over there. And then there's another opportunity for me to go to Australia, for example. So Accenture had an office in Australia, and there's a big Oracle project going on there. And there was an opportunity for me to go there and relocate for, I don't know, a year or 2 years to Australia. Now, it didn't work out because I had personal stuff going on here in the US. But those are kind of examples that I ran into. And being Accenture, I also had people from India coming into the US that were working in the US and had been transferred over because they had been with Accenture for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And they had the opportunity to present themselves to come to the US to work. So I think secondary education, and then looking at companies who might have a US presence and an India presence and be able to transfer offices over time. But if you go through neither one of those approaches and just try to find someone that's going to willing to take you over. I mean, if you're currently living in India and willing to find a US company that would transfer you over to the US and start you working on day one here, I think that's going to be very hard to do unless you know somebody, unless you have some tight knit relationships with some folks that are already in the US that are willing to hear you out. Otherwise, just because I think a lot of times there's US talent that they can rely on, and it's less of a headache for them to be able to do the visa process and all that, unless you have someone that you have an uncle or a cousin or somebody that you already know here that can help get you a little bit closer to the front door.
So as a student, like Deloitte also has two offices, like one in India and one in US. So as a student, we have to target those companies who have offices in India also and US also. So that uh, keeps our journey easy.
It is easier. I'm not saying that it's going to be necessarily instantly gratifying, won't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But I think doing that gives you an opportunity versus going a different route. I just think that if, Deloitte's a great example. I see Deloitte has offices. I see a lot of people on LinkedIn that say, working Deloitte at the Indian office, right? And so, yes, essentially kind of building that long-term roadmap as far as if you want to come to the US, and I staff a lot of Salesforce developers that are H-1Bs here in the US on projects. And a lot of times they came over for a master's degree, right? Or they used to work at Deloitte, and now they came, they're Deloitte in the India, then they came to Deloitte in the US, and now they decided to leave Deloitte and get sponsored and have someone else pick up their H-1B, another staffing company here in the US. And now they're an independent contractor, essentially. But yes, to your point is Deloitte would be another example of a way you could chip away at this.
Yeah, I think that's the great part to go with.
Yeah.
So my next question comes into that. I see a lot of Salesforce developer in India also. They started their career as a Salesforce developer, doing job for 1 year, 2 year, or maybe 3 years. Some of them doing like 5 years. Then they started freelancing. Then they started independent contractor, and then they started their own company, like Salesforce consulting company. So
sure,
this is the only path, or that is the right path, which most of the people
it
follow?
depends on it depends on if you have an entrepreneur mindset, I guess, and if it's something that you have a goal to do. When I think everyone needs probably to work for a company for a number of years before going independent. I just think that you got to get some experience, and being an independent consultant with no experience and be able to sell yourself as an independent, you're probably going to fall on deaf ears, because I just think no one's already going to hire independent without experience, right? And so, my suggestion is always to work for a company for 5 or 10 years, whatever kind of threshold you want to put in place, is before going the independent route, because you already have a track record of success, and then customers will probably pay more attention to your abilities and skill set because you've already been there and done that. Then you mentioned the starting your own company. That was where you become a business owner, right? And so the challenge with that is being able to sell your services, right, as a company, right? When there's so much demand, there's a lot of competition in the space, right? And so how does a customer know the difference between your company and someone else's company when you say all the same things as far as who you have on staff and what skill set you bring and all that? If you're not a niche and you're kind of just a generalist around Salesforce, then it's going to be hard for a new customer to understand exactly what you can do, unless you've already built some tight relationships over your career about who and who would be willing to take you on as a consulting company. But yeah, that is a route that's often out there. And then there's some people that just want to work for a company indefinitely, right? So they go through the ranks of being an analyst and being a junior developer and then being a senior developer and then being an architect and then being a managing director and then being a partner, right? And so, or being a CIO or CTO or VP of IT, right? So some people like to just stay within an industry or within, working for a company, right? And they don't have to deal with, they earn a paycheck, they get benefits. They don't have to worry about the overhead that comes with entrepreneurship and building a business and doing sales and doing marketing and all that other stuff that's involved with being a business owner. It can be challenging, it can be stressful, and there can be additional anxiety that goes with it.
So yeah, so entrepreneurship is the career, then you have to face challenges. So that's that thing.
Exactly. I think a lot of times people try the independent route or building a business, and they don't realize how much time and energy and patience is needed to be able to build a brand. And you need a sales engine and you need a marketing engine, right? And you need to, and especially if you start hiring people, let's say you hire, 3 developers, right, to get you off the ground because you have 1 client. And then that project runs short and is over in 4 months. Okay, now you have 3 developers on your payroll that are expecting a paycheck regardless of the business that you bring in. You as a business owner is responsible for adding new clients and keeping these people gainfully employed. And if you don't have a sales engine to be able to land your next client, then these other people, their job is in jeopardy at that point because you're not able to keep them busy working on projects for you.
That's the thing. So I just want to, like, my all questions are over now. So now just because most of the audience are college students. So what is the one big advice, some growth hacks you want to give, and the last message you want to give to our subscribers?
Yeah. So one question, Tushar, are internships popular in India? Do they have internships where you actually have you can do a 3-month assignment while you're working on your degree? Do they offer that in India?
In India, like the internships are less. They just hire second year or third year students. Like I just give you my college example. In our college, company recruit us in third year, or some of them recruit in second year, and then they directly give you a job. But you have to sign a bond of 2 year and 3 year. So that's not the internship case. But if they don't like your work, they can remove it after 3 months or 6 months also. But there are less internships, there are more jobs they give,
I
but it is
see.
difficult to get a job as a fresher.
Yeah, I got you. So basically, they will sign you up for a position before you finish school. They're saying if you don't, you're 2 years away from finishing school, but we're going to go ahead and put a contract in place that once you do finish school, you'll start on us the day after or shortly thereafter finishing school. Is that right?
So basically it's just like we considered is as a training of like 2 years and 3 years in the Salesforce. So yeah, that's in India. Like we have a job opportunities, but there is less internship opportunities in the Salesforce.
Gotcha. But to answer your question, like, if you're a year out or just graduating, you have to leverage LinkedIn. And I'm a big fan of LinkedIn and what it's done over the last
I'm
5 or
also a
10
big
years.
fan.
Right. And so you need to start building connections. And I wrote an article about building bridges before you actually need them. And that what that means is, basically you got to start building relationships with those hiring managers that are on LinkedIn to let them know that you have interest in their company. But don't go there and being too harsh or too arrogant about the situation. Don't go in and say, hey, Chris, I'm looking for a position. I'm graduating in a year. Will you hire me? That's not really the right approach. The approach that I would suggest is kind of figure out ways to add value to the organization or to the individual that you're reaching out to, right? So if you write this, for example, you build your own application and you want to have the hiring manager take a look at it, maybe provide, when they have time, hiring managers are very busy, but they have time to take a look at what you built and provide some guidance. Or maybe you wrote an article about, your degree, or the article about something that you're looking forward to do as far as a passion or a hobby, or some work that you've done on the Salesforce platform, and be able to share that out with the community. It's all about, I think if you learn to share the wealth of knowledge that you're gaining with others, people will take notice of that, and you'll start to get some recognition for it. And you'll start to see opportunities fall into your lap. Now, I'm not saying that happens overnight. I'm not saying it happens within 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, but you have to continue to chip away at it almost on a daily basis. And I know you're busy with school and assignments and other things and have a social life and all that. But if you could just make yourself available for an hour or two on a weekend to be able to produce something and publish it out on LinkedIn and start to build some visibility around you, I think that will help your success for when you're actually looking for work. People will know who you are and what you bring to the table versus not doing that at all. Um, and don't worry about the likes and the shares and stuff like that, because if you get too tied up in that stuff, then you're kind of, you're disappointing yourself, right? So it's really about just giving and giving and giving. And over time, a community will build around you because you've been able to give and value excessively out there.
Yeah, sure. The most of the people are just getting into the numbers of like likes and share. That's not the
Yeah,
works on LinkedIn.
yeah, that doesn't really, I mean, that if you let that be the premise of why you're doing it, then you'll be disappointed, right? It's more about what, ask yourself, what can I share with the world for that to be able to help other people? And I think if you have that mindset, you'll find that you'll accomplish a lot more success. I mean, Tushar, you and your channel, that's a perfect example, right? So first starting out your channel, you probably didn't have that many subscribers, but you continue to do it and you continue to put momentum behind it and put energy and put a lot of thought into it. And the subscribers come over time, right?
Yeah,
And it's something that just hasn't happened overnight. And the same thing needs to happen for someone on their career trajectory as well.
yeah, that's a great piece of advice, Chris. So I just over the just completed all the question, and thanks for this. You have add lot of value to that. Like I have lot of confusion that how can like get a job in US company. You have just cleared that my confusion, and most of the audience have the confusion that how to get a job in the US market and some
Yeah.
other outside the India. So you just give a complete roadmap. So that's the great thing which I love about this podcast. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. If any of your viewers want to hit me up on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn and have questions they want to ask, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit throughout the day. I'm always happy to share advice or give my opinion on something, just to help others that are looking to succeed in their career and could use, someone like myself just to give them some pointers to that process.
so I will just who and whoever are watching this, I just put the link of his LinkedIn in the description. So go and DM sir. They will definitely help you out. So thank you, sir, for this. You have add a lot of value. And
Awesome. Thanks for having
it's
me, Tushar. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your channel today.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay.